And little girl, here with you this morning. I hope everybody's blessed. I'm actually kind of on time, which is cool. I'm going to go ahead and turn the comments on while you're watching. If anyone's here, thank you for being here. Hope you're having a good start of your day. There we go. Comments are on. All right, so this one shouldn't be super long. Again, I want some of these to be very accessible and user-friendly because they are a little, I don't want to say they're directed at the younger generation because parents need to know these things too. And it's good for just everyday folks to understand where some of these where some of these ideologies and concepts are coming from and springing up in the youth. Because, it's not just school. It's important to monitor what your children are doing, especially on the internet. But I'm not here to lecture you, trust me. I was lax in that area myself. I did not try to be. I didn't think I was. But people lie. And no matter how much you try to, and it's not even protect your children or your loved one, it's just keep them from being tarnished, so they can keep that shine and that innocence that they have from youth. Anyways, I want to go over this game because it's a game that my youngest had played when it first came out. And I knew then that the concept was a little weird. He didn't seem to care for the game especially, but he told me a little story. And again, people have been doing this to me for a long time. And I don't know if I was catching on, if they're being used as vessels at that moment and quote unquote God or source, or the other one is speaking through that person at that time, because we're told, that happens, that God will speak to us through each other, So I don't want to speculate as far as that goes, but the game itself, well, let's dive into it and you'll see the synchronicities. You should right now already be seeing something similar to a similar theme that we've been seeing a lot. And I spoke about this and I shared it a couple of times. I don't think I ever did a video on it, but there's a song in a video, an animated video with, it's like the 50s, and everybody's wearing a mask that smiles. And all of the parents are getting led to like this fiery pit. And their masks are being taken off, and you see underneath they're like hideously scared or in fright. And then they're pushed into this pit. And all the young people, then are the ones who aren't. It's funny how it starts with a child, and we're going to get into the Salem witch trials a little bit too, and that is going to be strictly a research with me, and I might do a long form video on it, but I haven't decided yet. Again, my life is in kind of transition and flux and has been for a minute now. I'm going to try something, so I hope you guys can pray for me if you feel led to. All right, so that's enough rambling. Let's get into the game here. This is called We Happy Few. We'll look at the synopsis and plotline and some of the imagery that goes along with it. So let's start with the imagery because that's something that we all do, right? We see things and we automatically judge them or discern things about them with our eyes, right? At first glance, first impression. So there's a reason for all of these things. All right, so We Happy Few, you should notice, first of all, the masks. That's a pretty common theme today, as we know. Something else you should know or notice is that it's in the UK. You know who I think the AC is at this point in time. If you don't, then you're not watching the videos or paying attention. And again, there was another clue. My youngest wore a British flag costume for his Halloween, his last Halloween. So this stuff is just, everything is saturated in it at this point. Something else you should notice is that the other similarities it has with that theme is the purge, right? And what is the purge? It is a calling, basically. Anyone that you have a gripe with, you can then go ahead and attempt to end without any ramification or fear of justice being served. Sound familiar, targeted individuals? It should. And again, I've went over that ad nauseum. So let's get into the game itself. Now you see some of these are boards, I think, different levels. Here's one called We All Fall Down. And basically, I'll give you a quick breakdown, is these people take a medication to make their environment look better than it is and not like it's crumbling and falling to pieces and decrepit, which it is. And it makes them, quote unquote, happy. Happy pills, right? So that nothing affects them, or at least the propaganda that they're being fed takes effect and takes hold. Again, these things should all sound familiar to you. And if they don't, well, perhaps you need to pay more attention. So we're going to look at the synopsis and whatnot. I kind of didn't want to go through the Wikipedia, but we will quickly. I was going to do this on my own and do the research first, but I didn't know that this was the plot line for it. I had no idea. You sit down and be nice. So, We Happy Few is an action-adventure video game developed by Compulsion Games. And again, you'll see these words and symbols all over the video game industry and media in general. Developed by Compulsion Games and published by Gearbox Publishing in 2016, kind of when life started getting sideways. An early access version was released for Windows, with the full game seeing wide release for PlayStation 4, Windows, and Xbox One in August 2018. My son played the early release, I thought, but he played on the video game. So again, these dates aren't really gelling for me, but Wikipedia, you can edit that. Anybody can go in and edit that. So there's the box art depicting one of the playable characters, Arthur, running from the Wellington Wells residence. Okay. So this tells you all of the creators and producers, the platforms, Linux. That came up a lot, I guess when God was talking to me through the computer, I don't know, or when I was digging and I found things. So Linux is a thing. I don't know in what way, but it is. The release, 2018. The genre is action-adventure, stealth, and survival. Played from a first-person perspective, the game combines role-playing survival and light roguelike elements. Now, again, a lot of these things should seem familiar, so I'm kind of just going to go through it the best I can and as concisely as possible, pointing these things out. Taking place within the retro-futuristic version of the mid-60s following, now pay attention here because, again, they're saying this is an alternate version of reality, but I don't think we were taught the true outcome of some of these events in history. And again, I think that's with reason. These people like to tinker, they like to play with genetics, and they like to experiment, and most experiments do not, you're not going to get proper results. You could corrupt the findings if the people in the experiment are told about it, right? You want all the reactions and physiological changes that take place to be organic and quote-unquote realistic. So a lot of times you're not told, but I digress. So taking place within the retro-futuristic version of the mid-60s following an alternate version of World War II, players take control over one of three characters. Take control. See, that's weird too. It doesn't say, you know, your avatar or player one or any of that stuff. It says you take control over one of three characters, as if it's already, this character is already in existence, right? Like it's a sentient being and it's having a life until you take over. Just weird the way these things are worded. Again, I appreciate if you give the video itself a thumbs up. That lets me know if I'm doing a decent job of relaying some of these truth nuggets that I believe are in our modern media, like in our pop culture, video games, songs, music, film, movies, that kind of thing. Okay, where were we? Each of whom seek to complete a personal task while escaping the fictional city of Wellington Wells, a crumbling dystopia on the verge of societal collapse due to the overuse of a hallucinogenic drug that keeps its inhabitants blissfully unaware about the truth of their world while leaving them easily manipulated and lacking morals. That sounds very familiar. If you're a spirit person, or if you're one of the Christ followers that watches the channel, thank you for being here and taking a minute to, as I try to create a bridge between our generations, there's enough division happening, and so I do my best to balance it and focus on the good aspects, but you're not going to be able to diagnose the problem until you examine it, and you got to root out the problem first before you can offer a solution. That reminds me of what they say about fluoride, right? Again, I'm not a doctor. This is no part of this is medical advice. This is speculation and a spiritual breakdown or defragmenting of the media that is put in front of us, and sometimes nature's own organic algorithm patterns, right? So it's interesting. It's almost like when they poke a hole in your spiritual armor, the full armor of God, which is truth, righteousness, faith, and salvation. A mind was filled with salvation, Christ consciousness, right? When they get a hole in that, and usually the hole is created by fear. That's how they open the door to you, pretty much, okay? It's how the gateway is created or opened, the portal into you is opened. And oftentimes when they say gateway drugs, they don't mean going to other drugs and leading to other things. Again, they're telling us things and they're informing us, but they're giving us improper context. It's up to us to break these things down, okay? And so, hold on one second. Sorry about that. So it's up to us to break these things down and examine them and kind of root them out and say, okay, what's going on here? And we know at this point that a lot of people are very easily manipulated. Even if you don't want to admit that, some people think it's offensive. I'm an adult, We forget that we are but children. Our race is very young in the grand scheme of things. And everybody wants to have help, but, even a babe is sent off by its parents and patted on the bum as they are learning how to walk and toddling around the house. And yeah, sometimes you fall and you get hurt, but that's how you learn, right? So it's almost like when they put a hole in that spiritual armor and they're creating a gateway into you, right? It's a gateway to another dimension, all right? The developers focused on creating a story with strong narratives while underlining gameplay with a sense of paranoia and designing in-game decisions that are of moral gray areas and weight, which influence and affect later parts of the game. In other words, they're asking you to choose the lesser of two evils. There is no quote-unquote good or morally ethical choice. You're not given an ethical appropriation. What word am I looking for? They're not giving you a good choice. They're not giving you the right choice, right? They're giving you two bad choices. You want this apple with wormholes all in it, or do you want this apple with just one worm in it? Like, I don't want either of those things, right? And when my son had first showed me this game or told me about it, I sat and watched it for a few minutes with him and played with him, but he didn't seem that into it. But again, when they do these early releases, you're not able to pull up synopses like this. The only way to figure out what the game is about is to play it or wait for somebody to upload an entire gameplay version of the story, which people do all the time. I'm not going to do that, but it's very cool. Sometimes they just film and edit together all the cutscenes, so you get the story. It's like an animated movie of the video game itself. Okay, so it is like when you're playing it too, it does give you a sense of dread. Everything is very dark, and I'll show you some of the graphics in a minute to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about there. One moment, my dog is being a fuss bucket. That is not yours, that is hers. This is yours. That is the one you get. No, that's hers. Come here. You can't have hers too. You've got your own right there. Sit down. I'm sorry. Okay, so they don't give you a decent choice. The design of the game's setting was based on various elements of 1960s British culture, with the developer Compulsion Games seeking inspiration on dystopian societies from various influences in the media, such as Brazil, 1984, Animal Farm, which those should be very familiar to people who watch this channel, Fahrenheit 451, Brave New World, and heavily on the Mad Adam trilogy. I don't know what that is, but maybe we'll check it out. Work on the game began with a Kickstarter funding campaign in 2015. It's kind of like GoFundMe, but it's just for independent projects, independent media projects like analog horror, found footage films, the one Slender Man that I was talking about in yesterday's video where they did not get the copyright and they could not use the name. That was a Kickstarter fund, Okay, so it's a good way for creators, people who create content, for artists and designers to get their work out there and seen, even if you don't make enough quick enough. The concept is getting out there, right? And before the developers were acquired by Microsoft Studios in 2018, there's that year again. So let's check out the gameplay. It's an action game played first-person perspective that includes elements of stealth and survival. Players control one of three characters in the game's three different acts. So there's three acts, beginning, middle, and end, each having their own skills and abilities and their own reasons for escaping the village of Wellington Wells. There's Arthur Hastings, a well-balanced character, adept at crafting weapons. Sally Boyle, adept at sneaking and crafting chemical concoctions, alchemy. And Ollie Starkey, a strong melee fighter, adept at crafting powerful explosives. I always like the melee in games. I've never got into like fake guns and whatnot. It just never appealed to me. You're not getting this tiny one, Sammy. You'll choke on it. No. Now lay down and be nice, both of you. Lay down and be nice. You guys want a treat? I'll walk and get them a treat as I read some of this. Okay. Completing objectives can earn the player character rewards as well as skill points, which the player can allocate among a skill tree to improve the character's attributes or give them new abilities. Throughout the game, the player can collect melee weapons, items, food, and drink, and wealth. Okay, so you know how this goes. Food is used to maintain nourishment or thirst. Staying nourished improves character attributes, while being hungry or thirsty obviously can negatively impact you. The player is able to gain access to safe houses for recovery, as well as fast travel, which is like a warp zone back in our day, between other unlocked safe houses. Wealth can be used or gained through various vendors. A core element, now here we go. Now this is the happy pills, right? Are you going to take the red pill or the blue pill? A core element of We Happy Few is joy, an addictive hallucinogenic drug used by most of the citizens of Wellington Wells. If the player opts to have their character use joy, so you can take the drugs as you're playing the game. Sounds wonderful, doesn't it? They will see the town in a colorful, joyful environment and will be able to walk through the town without attracting undue attention from its citizens. But this does impair some of the character's abilities. Kind of like in the real world, if you are to use a substance and get quote-unquote high, it can bring things that are no good into your realm or into your space, right? Into your environment. So when you take this pill, it is in essence a happy pill, right? Take your happy pill. It'll be okay. Oh, you're just schizophrenic. You know, I had a brother who had a mental illness. It's all right. It's all right. But medicine can help so much nowadays. And I'm quoting here. Again, this is not medical advice, any part of this. Sammy, eat your snacks and behave yourself. As their joy... Oh, wait. Where do we go? Okay, they'll be able to walk through the town without attracting undue attention from its citizens. So we're in like a police state, right? So keep that in mind. But this does impair some of the characters' abilities. As their joy depletes, the town will revert to its dismal, war-torn state. And while the character will have full control of their abilities, they will be seen as a downer. So the person himself, if you're not taking your medicine, everybody will gang stalk you until you do, because you're a downer. Or they will... I think they beat you with clubs and stuff. Like, it's bad. Okay, so here we go. They will be seen as a downer, an enemy of Wellington Wells, and either must fight off the Wellies, those are the police, force through melee, or use stealth to sneak around the town. Furthermore, the player character will suffer withdrawal effects from coming off of joy. So it's not enough, right, that all these things are happening. But now you, as you're getting through the town and trying to sneak through the town, you are accosted by all these people, right? And now you're going to have to deal with the shakes and the sweats and who knows what else. So that's probably where the safe houses come in to play. Sammy, they're all gone. All gone. Right, I'm going to get it and I'm going to take it out of the room. You are not getting her toy. It's going away. Now that's enough. Boy, oh boy, dogs, they're like children. Alright, so the player character will suffer withdrawal, impacting their health and thirst. Should the player character take too much damage from enemies or the environment, they will have to restart it to reach the checkpoint. Like save station. Optimally, the game allows the player to permadeath, requiring them to restart the game should the player character die. The player also must consider, sounds like being reset, huh? I don't know what you said. I can't see, I'm sorry. If anyone said anything, I don't know why I did that. The player also must consider the type of residence in each district. Oh, sorry. Optionally, okay, so there you get to restart the whole game. The player must also consider the type of residence in each district. So here we go with the districts like the Hunger Games within Wellington, Wales, and make sure they also do not stand out due to their clothing or other appearance aspects. Residents of a wealthy district may become suspicious of the player character if they are dressed in rags, even if they have taken their joy. So now you're also going to get gang stalk. The community watch is going to be on you. The police state if you aren't kept up to par as far as your grooming goes and your attire. Lay down. Lay down. Oh, God. Lay down. Sorry. Residents of a wealthy district may become suspicious of you if you look poor, okay? So now we're going to get out of here just for a minute, at least. And I want to show you, we're going to go to a couple of like the actual reviews from gamers and whatnot, because they tell you little things that sometimes are not in the game reviews themselves. Sam. Okay, so let's jump over here. Let's go up here. It says, I can hardly call England a dystopia, but it sure feels different to the country I've spent my whole life in. Don't get me wrong, most politicians and charlatans and people have always been ignorant. But in the last few years, the selfish intolerance has risen to the surface. The worst part is a large contingent of the country accepts this zeitgeist, sold on scaremongering, propaganda, and a natural dislike of those who don't fit into the image of the good old days. Okay, so this is actually his game review. So it's interesting that I've been handed Compulsion Games' long-awaited survival RPG, role-playing game, action, stealth, adventure, everything titled We Happy Few. First announced way back in 2015, the Gearbox published game is finally ready for release. We Happy Few dishes up an alternative take on the 60s Britain where the media is tightly governed. The aristocracy, I always mess up that word, aristocracy, I think, hold all of the country's worth. And the people wander around in a haze, attacking anyone who doesn't conform to the idea of traditional values. What a fantasy world, right? See, he gets it. He gets it. It's 1964, and the country is feeling pretty darn good, courtesy of a government-decreed drug named joy. The civilians of Britain take joy in order to maintain a vulgar, overly positive outlook. Negativity is frowned upon, and those who fail to use the drug, or downers as they are branded, seem to take mysteriously lengthy vacations. So people start disappearing, and especially if they are of a certain status and they're not taking their happy pills, their joy, right? Wellington Wells is a small group of islands just off the coast wherein lives a young bureaucrat, Arthur Hastings, who works as a redactor, censoring the country's history of depressing events. So they're getting rid of all the negative things, right? And, you shouldn't focus on war and things like that. But at the same time, if somebody's told the truth, and you're not reset or erased or any of those things, history isn't erased, you're not going to commit those same mistakes. Again, that's why I don't buy into the reincarnation myth. I think it's a counterfeit of resurrection. And I think it's how people's lives are reset. And I know how that sounds. Trust me, I know very well how it sounds. But it should be obvious something's going on with people at this point in time. But Arthur is off his joy, and thus the memories come flooding back, the events of the war, the horrifying actions taken by the British people. See, it helps them forget what they've done, too. Like, if you've ever watched The Walking Dead, it would kind of be like Negan, Rick, and Shane all forgetting and having no memory of the things that they had done, right? And walking around with zombies everywhere, still acting as if, they're cops and robbers and whatever else. Excuse me. It is allergy season for me, so got a lot going on there. The loss of his own brother Percy, now seeing the world as it is to the sober, Arthur has become a downer and has no choice but to flee Wellington Wells and return to the mainland lest he find himself on vacation, quote unquote. Players must work to help Arthur escape his butterfly and rainbow-filled nightmare. Arthur's travels will take him through a variety of districts, some lawful, and patrolled by a totalitarian police force, the Bobbies. That's what they're called. While others, such as the Countryside Garden District, are populated by dangerous plague-ridden downers, so they consider you to have a plague. And they see you as dangerous for speaking the truth and speaking true about history and having some type of guilt and shame about how they behaved. Those are good things to have. I mean, you don't want to over-condemn anyone else, but shame has its place, and so does suffering. And everybody says, why is this just a place of suffering? Well, that's not what it's about. Once all this is over and everything is revealed and the new age begins, we will be able to move forward in joy at that point in time, right? So anyway, you slice it, the inhabitants of Wellington Wells are all hostile in their own ways and must be handled with fragility if Arthur is to escape paradise. As We Happy Few progresses, more and more mechanics are made apparent. As such, the game quickly develops an identity crisis. Originally conceived as a survival title, Compulsion decided to pad out the narrative elements when feedback showed that this aspect was what players were actually excited for. They wanted the storyline. They didn't think the gameplay was all that important, and honestly, it's not really a survival game. I mean, in a way it is, I guess, but it's a totally different one. Unfortunately, as a result, the game has become lost in itself. It's a linear action adventure that also features a large open world and incessant crafting elements, which slow the game's great storyline to a crawl. Arthur must be kept fed, and this is the problem you run into with The Sims. It's like, if you're trying to read and learn and like it requires a certain amount of real time in the real world or whatever, it also takes time. And we're going to go over that, how a computer's clock is different than like our real world clock, because the Bible said God's day to him is 1,000 years to us. That's kind of how our real time is compared to the internal clock of a computer. So again, we have a lot of these commonalities, right? So you're trying to keep them fed and all this stuff, and when Sims first came out, like, your character would just sit on the floor and go to the bathroom because you're in the middle of like reading a book or learning how to cook, and you can't leave that activity. And your character will start to get irritated and they'll just go to the bathroom on the floor. And if you have a baby too soon before you've learned some things, you can't really take care of it. And a lot of times children's services will come take the child. My spouse used to play and leave the baby outside in the crib, and I'm like, why would you? I don't know, even in video games, our actions, these simulated actions are telling as far as our character goes. There's a reason for all of this, But again, we're not supposed to be sitting around complacent, sitting on our hands. This is all about, I believe, our Creator wanting us to walk on our own 2 feet at a certain point. Not that He is not there to help us. That's not what I mean at all. So he must be kept fed, watered, and well rested. Eating bad food can make him sick, and falling foul in a fight can make him bloody. Your health decreases, basically, is what they're saying. So those are the problems with the gameplay. Now, I want to show you some images, what it actually looks like. We Happy Few is the tale of a plucky bunch of moderately terrible people trying to escape from a lifetime of cheerful denial in the city of Wellington Wells. Okay, conformity is key in this alternative 1960s England. Let's look at some of the pictures, because I did this and I saw one of the characters, and again, it's all here. So I guess one of the boards is called They Came From Below. I guess that's one of the levels. Here is the Stasi. You've got the actual police, or the bobbies, and the other citizens harassing you, gang stalking you because you won't take your meds. Because you want to know what's really happening in life. And she's got her mask on. Now we're going to look at what the point of the mask is as well in a minute. Here you see the black checkered floor. There's a lot of symbolism in this game. Obviously, it is all over the place. But I want to look at one of the characters that I had noticed. And so if I can find him. We all fall down. Ring around the rosy, pocket full of posies, ashes, ashes. We all fall down. Do you ever wonder why your school and stuff, like why they made us sing all those weird songs? It's like we were going to Hogwarts all along, but nobody told us. They didn't want, they didn't let us in on it. I just want to show you a little of the gameplay. You can see it's very psychedelic, very illusory, a lot of illusion being used. I guess these people think they're happy. Maybe they're dancing. Reminds me of Clockwork Orange right there. Like, this game reminds me a lot of Clockwork Orange. Here, of course, you have the top hats, right? We've talked about their significance. Now, let's look at the characters because I want you to see. Okay, so we talked about Arthur, the protagonist, right? Sally Boyle. Where did it go? Okay, so here we're going to get through. Now, here's Fandom Wiki. These ones are really good for laying out a plotline and a synopsis. This tells you everything you need to know. How it came to be, where it came from. All right, we've already done that though, and I want to show you one of these characters because again, you can't make this up. And we'll look at the ending too, so that'll be a spoiler, but in a minute or two, I want to show you this. We have a few characters. Arthur, he's your protagonist. He was Sally's childhood friend, and as they began to spend more time together, they eventually developed feelings for each other. Ollie Starkey. Not much is known about their relationship. Ollie mentions that she and Arthur used to play at his house when they were younger. It's unclear. The two seem to be neighbors. She's a protagonist of Act 3. Okay. Robert Bing, who is that? After Sally left Anton and made her a business of her own, Robert became one of her patrons. As a result, that he began to protect her. It mentions that he has a daughter, and he's, okay, something about an Indian princess. We get into all kind of things. I guess the story is pretty deep. That's why the gameplay was not rated very highly, because if your memory is being used for storyline, then it's going to become more and more like a point-and-click game the further you go. And point-and-click is basically like old school Dungeons and Dragons. Like, you don't actually fight. Everything is simulated, and there's a lot of reading and traveling and exploring. There's not a whole lot of fighting per se. Now, let's go and see if I can get the images, because I want to show you this one guy in particular. Now watch. Look at that. Who's the light bearer, guys? Who's the light bearer? Lucifer. Okay? He is known as the light bearer. Also the prince of the air. They have a lot of names, just like we have a lot of different adjectives. I'm a woman. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I have several names. A couple of first names, a middle name, a last name, 2 last names. Right? Names are binding. Names can bind if you don't have strong faith and somebody's wanting to bind you up, and I mean spiritually, quote unquote, put a spell on you, right? Names are a big part of that. So here's the light bearer, and what's he doing? What did I tell you the other day? What Lucifer was in heaven, in the choir. He was the choir leader, the conductor, maybe you would say. And guitar is really big. I guess that he played a stringed instrument too. I would assume they're more like harps in heaven. But obviously, you can disobey, and they apparently had some free will because they did. And the guitar, I totally believe, is one of Lucifer's inventions. I'm not saying that guitars are bad or evil or anything like that. My mom played guitar. I have family that played guitar. We don't know much about these games, but I wanted to take the time to say hi. I hope you are doing well. Thank you. Again, these are kind of alerts for parents who might not know what's out there. It's and again, it's truth in music. We're showing how things that are happening in real life are also happening in media. Now, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Is it happening because it was wrote about, because it was written, because it's a script or a play that somebody made, a screenplay? Or is it working in reverse? Art imitates life, imitates art, imitates life, right? So again, this is just to alert people to what is out there in the kind of society that we're living in and what we're surrounded by. A lot of people thought America was a Christian nation. I was one of those people. You know, hey, the government helps people, and you know, we give food stamps, and that's from the farmers, that's from agriculture, that's not even from the government. So people need to really start doing their own research into this stuff and understanding what's going on. They don't want anybody to starve. They don't want you fasting. They want you chubby and lazy and being a glutton. So you don't recognize what's going on around you and how you're being used. Basically, how you are just a resource, and you're either being used for energy, entertainment, amusement, your work, whatever it is that you do, whatever it is that you create, because these beings do a lot of copying, just like we copy God, right? Hey, how are you? Nice to have you here. Please, guys, consider giving the video itself a thumbs up. It lets me know how I'm doing, and it also will help the video be seen a little bit. I'm not really into views like that. Again, a lot of the things I do are cautionary, and it's just to expose them to the light so people can see what is going on. And when you expose darkness to the light, what happens? It purifies it, right? Light is a purifier. Fire is a purifier. So this is the light bearer. It's another name for Lucifer. He's got his favorite guitar. A lot of guitar musicians, they won't tell you. Some of them just don't know. But again, the guitar is Lucifer's baby as well. So he's one of the characters in We Happy Few. Let's see what it says about him. Lightbearer is the second downloadable content. Oh, come on, man. It's included in the We Happy Few season pass, but can also be purchased individually. So it's an add-on, right? It's not enough you pay for the game. You got to pay for the downloadable content and the add-ons so that you can play it the way it's meant to be played, which is kind of lame that happens nowadays and you don't even get a hard copy unless you pay more. The Lightbearer DLC downloadable content is centered around the famous rock idol Nick Lightbearer. We're going to get into that name Nick at the end of this video momentarily. Again, this isn't going to be much longer. Nope, that's not what I wanted. There we go. Sorry, guys. So we're going to get into the name Nick. That's a part of my personal testimony too. My husband and said, every boy needs a best friend named Nick. Nick's your friend. Nick's your buddy. Funny enough, my son ended up having a best friend named Nicholas. Where does that name come from? Saint Nicholas. Santa with two of the letters inverted or reverted. So we're going to touch on that momentarily. He goes through a series of events to remember what's been going on at Avalon Hotel. It was released in 2019. Is what follows after Nick's death in the bathtub. So this guy dies in 8-1 in a bathtub. Sound familiar? Like a lot of music videos, right? Like a lot of rock stars actually passed that way. Jim Morrison allegedly died that way. Where he resides at the Avalon Hotel for an upcoming concert. Virgil Dainty is his ex-agent and there to help Nick remember what happened to him and avenge his own death. With Virgil's guidance, he aids Nick in his journey to redeem himself from his past mistakes. Okay? Under assault by crazed fans, invading paparazzis, and angry exes who figuratively and literally want a piece of Nick Lightbearer, who is a famous rocker and a decadent, hedonistic hookup artist. Again, I played for a few minutes with my son, and, my son was very straight edge. They complained that I smoked cigarettes, right? So he even to this day has not drank as far as I'm aware. Does not smoke, obviously, doesn't do any of these things. But because of that, he's gotten very arrogant, and we know pride comes before downfall. And again, I love my children to the moon and back, and that's why I do this. They're not the same little people that I was trying to help raise and guide. Parents are guides. Children are a blessing, and it's our job to guide them appropriately. People don't want to hear this today. It convicts their conscience. They want to just shut you off and shut it off, take another happy pill. I know because I was on medication for a long, long time, trying to get rid of these physical symptoms because I, pretty much broke my body down. But you can't start like that. Some people have to. You have to chip away at the outer to get to the inner. But it works a lot better if you get to the root first, right? Cut off the snake's head, pull it out, pull the weed out by the root, right? Okay, so he's a hedonistic hookup artist because he isn't a fighter. He has to resort to using the power of rock and roll to fend off his crazy lover and angry haters. Nick will use his guitar to face melt and block his opponent's attacks. Vibe golden statues of himself to show him where to go. Sounds like Nebuchadnezzar. Hello, Nigel. Also, if you sing along to their songs, you are worshiping their God. I never saw it that way, but, worship isn't what people think it is. I don't think God, quote unquote, needs our worship in the way that people think. Worship is where your mind and your heart spend most of their time during the day. So if I sit here and I'm thinking more about smoking my next cigarette than I'm thinking about how can I serve God, then that's a problem, right? Which I don't do anymore, which is cool. I get done what I need to get done usually, and that's kind of a reward. But hey, I am a work in progress, so I'm doing the best I can at this point. But I agree with you. I'm very careful about what I listen to now. Unfortunately, I still really like some of the old songs I used to listen to, and they are telling to me. So they open up a whole new perspective for me to see things from, and a whole new, wow, synchronistic moment for me and surreal moment. So here we go. Thank you for trying to make me happy in my sin there, Nigel. I appreciate it. I don't know. The Catholic Church doesn't list smoking as a sin per se. It's when you get into that gluttony or that lust, right? But worship is where you spend your time, where your mind spends its time, most of its time, okay? And then you act that out through your words and through your hands and the works of your hands and the deeds of your hands. I drink often, smoke sometimes. I drink water a lot. I don't drink alcohol anymore. I was really wanting a beer yesterday too, but I resisted, so that's good. So yeah, I can relate to this because I take something for my fibro for pain. It's not a pain pill per se anymore. Why am I telling you this? Is my medical history your business? No, it's not. I'm telling you, I can relate to this, and it does. Certain medications affect you this way, even if you don't realize it, even if it's not a side effect, even if it's not listed as a side effect. These things can affect you without your awareness. Oh, this is interesting. Nick is a heavy user of drugs and alcohol that his body needs them to function, or he'll go into the withdrawal. Therefore, everything that was bad for anyone else is good for Nick. And we're going to get into this name in a minute. We're going to segue off of this. Binge taking joy, which is the happy pill, scotch, and coffee. Guys, we were just looking at this. Who else likes scotch and coffee? Loki. And Loki is another iteration, if you will, of Lucifer, allegedly. And again, we're going to get into the Nephilim branch of things and how they have a lot in common with Norse and Greek mythology. But again, we're going to a place, and I forgot about this game, and it's very relevant, especially considering the UK and Britain and what's about to happen over there, which I said was going to happen. Not that I'm special or anything. It's just discernment that God gives you. But we're supposed to speak about these things when we see them, and we're supposed to be bold and courageous, and we're not supposed to slink away and hide. And I'm not physically hiding by choice, so this is why I try to use my voice. But yeah, low-key loves the coffee and the scotch, guys. Scotch and coffee will restore his sanity with only the slightest chance of accidental side effects. I know all about Santa. I've had nothing to do with Mass for ages. You mean Christmas or Mass? Huh. Anyways, I get it, but I didn't know this other part, and I want to segue real quick, guys, and then we'll look at the end. I'm in UK, so what did you say? You'd have to go back to some of my videos about the patterns I said that are appearing physically. And again, I'm not physically judging people. It is a physical pattern that I'm seeing everywhere, which means it is a spirit behind it, which means it is the predominant or most controlling spirit at this moment. So what am I seeing? I'm seeing a lot of black and white checkerboards. I'm seeing a lot of interracial couples. And again, I'm not judging that, okay? Believe me, I am not quote unquote Caucasian myself. I have something in me that I was told was Italian, but there's a whole, again, my history is very bizarre. These are physical characteristics that are kind of taking over, and all you got to do is look at YouTube and see all the red-haired people now who have channels, in camping in the Christian park. And again, just because somebody says they're a Christian does not mean that they are. They are infiltrating our areas to get us into sin. If you get into sin, then they have legal authority, they have consent to enter your life and to muck with you. The less you sin, literally, the further you push these things away from you. But anyway, there's a pattern of the black and white checkerboard, obviously. Interracial couples, black and white there. Redheaded people who are in places of positions of predominance right now. We're seeing a lot of these patterns repeat over and over and over and replicated. Okay? And I told you how personally these things have displayed themselves to me over the last several years. And again, the people that we see on TV, I don't believe those are the real individuals. I don't believe that anyways. That's my opinion. That's speculation. Because if I were super wealthy, I would not show my face. I would not wanting you knowing what I looked like, what my children look like. That way we could have privacy and we could have normal lives without paparazzi following us, and for their own safety and security, right? So I don't think the people that we see on television are actually, like, for example, the royal family, okay? And I believe that I'm in an area that has a lot going on right now in that arena. Netflix has a show called The Devil Is in Ohio. I've been telling you for a long time how weird this is. And I remembered something else, again, going backwards in retrospect. Right as this stuff was kicking off for me, 2016, 2017, we were fishing in a place I call Turtle Bay because there's a lot of turtles and lily pads there. And I heard a sound, and it was a cross between like a mountain lion, a female woman person, and something darker, something other. And the sun was up, which is really weird. And I said, "What was that?" And he was like, "I don't know, maybe something mating." And again, the more of these things that happen, the more of these events that occurred, the more the people around me, their personalities changed and they became more like each other, more like a hive or robots, whatever you want to call it. So anyways, again, please do consider giving the video itself a thumbs up, guys. That helps me feel better. But I realize a lot of enemies watch this channel, and I realize I have a lot of enemies at this point in time because of the things that I'm talking about. And it's unfortunate. I don't want that, of course. I don't want things to be that way. But I have a job to do, no matter how small that is. Even if, again, only one person is helped by all these efforts over the last 3.5 years. Hey, that's one person more that is on the path to activating that free will, reactivating that free will. Old Scratch. Why am I looking at this? Because Nick, that name. My husband said that all the time. Everybody needs a friend like Nick. Every boy's got to have a best friend named Nick. Nick's your buddy. Nick's your friend. Nick's your pal. So my husband, or my friend, my son, my oldest son actually ended up having a best friend named Nick. And I didn't know any of these things back then. I didn't know about signs, symbols. But what's really weird, guys, is if, for example, I have a loved one who has a favorite number. And that number follows that person everywhere. Even their email adds up, if you add them up via gematria, it equals out to be that number. And then I realized that number is also in my old address when I met this person back when I was 17, and it's also part of my dad's phone number. Those aren't coincidences. That's some type of like numerical identity to say, hey, ding, 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 this is who that is, right? And I told you, the spirits, it's almost like people played musical chairs. All the old people are in younger bodies, and the young people, I'm still trying to figure that part out. I don't have all the answers. And I know how this sounds. Trust me, I'm very well aware of how this sounds. And thought I was crazy. I wish that I was crazy. Maybe all these people around me are gaslighting me. But then that would mean that I'm important for some reason for all these people to harass me. And I don't think that's the case. I think it's a communal, spiritual, realm-based thing that has almost nothing to do with me other than the fact that I'm around these people. Okay? So I want to make sure that's very clear. None of this is me. It's not about me. Old Scratch is a nickname or pseudonym for the devil. The name likely comes from Middle English scrat, the name of a demon or goblin derived from Old Norse skrate. Now, this tells you all the places where Old Scratch is found. Honestly, I can't remember. I was doing research for Slender Man, and I ended up, like I said, down this rabbit hole and finding out that Old Scratch is the devil, and so is Nicholas is also a pseudonym for Lucifer. Now, this shows you all the times Old Scratch is referred to as being Lucifer. All these different books, right? All these different books have reference to Old Scratch. All these films have reference to Scratch. Okay? All these television shows make a reference to Scratch, Lucifer, Stay, Good Devil. Okay? Quantum Leap, the Boogeyman, Old Scratch. That's where it came from. I was doing Boogeyman research. And Nick came from Santa and Satan, and that's how I found Old Scratch. I remember this, like, in the old verbiage from, like, my dad and my grandmother, but again, my dad was old-fashioned anyway for his age. He was not of his era either. He's kind of like me. The only person I ever met that was like me. Here's all the music songs that mention Old Scratch, okay? Unreborn Again, Queens of the Stone Age. Tight Like That by Clutch. I used to really like Clutch before. Back in my old life. Video games. Here are all the video games with Old Scratch. And I don't know what Alan Wake is, but I'm very curious to find out now. So it's referencing an itch? No, Nigel. You're funny, though. I like to have you around. Miscellaneous times that it has been referenced to. So I just wanted to do that little segue real quick. Now, we want to look at the, how does it end? Ending. At the end, there's a small graveyard and church that Nick enters. Inside the church, okay, so I thought the protagonist, maybe we should have read the middle, but I don't want this to be super long. You guys saw the similarities to our current life. Oh, we have to look at the masks too. We'll look at that one. Let's look at that first and then the end. Okay. Who plays Nick Lightbearer? Neil Newbin, whoever that person is, plays Nick Lightbearer. Nick Harp. How do you get Nick's house in? How do you get inside Nick's house in Sympathy for the Lightbearer, guys? Didn't I just do a video called Sympathy for the Devil? Again, I do all this live for that reason, so people can see the synchronicities and how this is all tied together in real time. Get around the back of Nick's pad, climb up on the scaffolding, jump across the scaffolding, and continue to climb up the right side. And you will get into a window leading to Nick's party room. Sympathy for the Light Player. That's interesting. Okay. So I want to look at, because I believe this is where I found it first, and I like to. Let's look at the reason for the masks. Okay, so comedy and tragedy in the Divine Comedy, back in the day, okay? That's where those masks come from. They shape your face into, oh boy, sorry for the ads. They shape your face into a smile, and when you smile, you can't help being happy. Happy face masks are skin-tight white silicone masks that every decent citizen in Wellington Wells wears. You gotta conform, even your face. The masks have, for lack of a better word, quite literally become the face of Wellington Wells and one of the defining characteristics of both the city and its inhabitants. There are two versions of the mask, one for men, one for women, though the only real difference between the two is light pink lipstick. Apart from that, the masks cover and define most of one's face while leaving out huge holes for the eyes, as well as the mouth. The signature smile on the mask is always present, even if a welly shows aggression or sadness, which is bizarre. That's why you get that uncanny valley feeling, or that paranoia feeling I was talking about in the beginning. It isn't uncommon for people to wear things over the mask, such as glasses or fake mustaches. And again, I've told you, I've dealt with people and talked with people, and I know who they are. I don't know if it's Hollywood magic, if it's silicone, what, but they have the same mannerisms, they talk the same, use the same words, but they have a different face. Sounds weird. I get it. I know how that sounds. But a lot of this is illusion, guys. A lot of it. That's why I want to read you guys the story about the dragon, the prophet, and the crooked priest. I'll tell you the title once I actually upload it. If you're interested in that, please do comment and let me know. So it says, January 1st, 1962, Happy Faces were originally a campaign that got immensely successful, becoming standard clothing for everyone in Hamlin Village. No. Okay. The purpose behind the mask is to shape one's face into a smile. However, people are not really smiling. The mask only makes it appear that way. Arkwright's scientific and industrial research advertisement for an inbuilt radio can be seen, meaning they allow the user to listen to Uncle Jack wherever they are, kind of like we have Uncle Sam, right, guys? Uncle Jack is the one who pushes their propaganda. He's the one on the cover photo that I shared. The memory masks are the only happy face masks that don't have exaggerated smile. What are the memory masks? Let's check that out. A memory is essentially a flashback represented in-game by a floating happy face mask. They can be found throughout the story mode. Okay. All right. Now let's look at... Only happy few. Ending. Okay. Arthur actually departs Wellington Wells for the mainland and continues the search for Percy, or he can take the memory-destroying drug Oblivion and rejoin the populace in their ignorance. So he can choose to go back to sleep. What are you going to take? The red pill or the blue pill? Okay, let's look again at what happens to Nick Lightbearer. I want to see how his story ends. What happens in Nick Lightbearer? When examining Nick's body in Act 1 as Arthur, it says that he is deceased, implying that he died from electroshock in the tub. We know that. Arthur departs. Sorry about that. All right, Nick Light. There we go. Try it again. What happens at the end of We Happy Few? Da da da. Let's look at Reddit because this is where all the gaming kids hang out. Am I the only one who is disappointed about the ending to the Nick Lightbearer downloadable content? I know this sounds... I even misinterpreted the ending. It still was Lightbearer. He just was possessed by the devil whenever he was in his drug-induced state. But I had a long hunch that it was just Lightbearer, so towards the end I was shocked when it actually wasn't. Making him the true Foggy Jack would have added another complex twisted layer. Okay. Okay, so the ending is up for interpretation. There's supposed to be a second game coming. So it looks like... But let's bring up that other one we had where he enters the church. The Church of Simon. Will there be a sequel? Shoot, where did it went? Sympathy for the Lightbearer is a side quest. It activates during initiation of the side quest, the Church of Simon says. So it has a lot of different quests. We can go through some of them at another time if you're interested. I just like to superficially go over these things and show you guys where they come from and how I believe they're manifesting in our actual reality here in life. Oops. I want to show you that real quick, Uncle Jack, because it's propaganda. And this is what's happening now, guys. It's very easy to segregate a town or a community and make it not an internet, but an intranet, where the signals are just looping back around and you're not actually reaching anyone outside of your home area. That's how they control the media as well and what you see. So let's do propaganda. Listen to Uncle Jack wherever you go. So there's the headset that can go into the mask. Wakey, wakey, turn me on every morning. Uncle Jack says, keep calm and take your joy. A happy face means a happy place. And look, that dude's obviously sad. She's like, take another pill, honey. It'll be better. Right? There's Uncle Jack again. So there's a lot of cultic stuff in here. A lot of references to, I don't even know how to say it, Lucifer, I guess, fallen angels, that type of thing, and conformity in the year 1984. And if you've ever read it or seen it, Animal Farm. And see, we have Uncle Sam. Same thing, right? It is the same thing. Boys and girls, you can help your Uncle Sam win the war, save your quarters, and buy war-saving stamps. It's all about money. It's all about the economy. All of it. The only war here that I believe is real is spirit, at least at this point. You guys, stay blessed. I'm going to go over a few more things in upcoming videos. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you were able to easily relate to it. If you have kids out there, pay attention to what they're doing, what they're playing. Their minds are sponges, and we like to think that we are in control, but we are very easily led. Okay? I'm going to be working with the handy cam. I'm excited to try out some settings. As soon as the weather's a little nicer, I'll go back down to the Turkey Trail and cover a few areas that I did not get to. There's a business back there that I had to look up. I don't know what it was. And that's a local rabbit hole that was very weird too. And I filmed it in the one video, so I'm going to go over that too probably. But you guys stay blessed. Anything you want to go over, please let me know. I love you. Stay well. And we'll talk soon. Thank you for being here. And prayers are always appreciated. And if you need prayer, please let me know. If you have any suggestions for truth in movies, video games, or songs, feel free to email them to me or post them below. And I will look into them. And now that the holidays are over, there will be like a Truth in Movies or Music Monday, Truth in Media. Sometimes it will be uploaded, sometimes it will be live, depending on the topic I'm covering, because there are a lot of songs out there about the same things. And some days we might do it by artist, other days we might do it by topic. All right? You guys stay blessed. Have a great day. Thanks for being here.